Hello, welcome to the First Issue Club comic book podcast. There's a tagline I say here, and just give me a sec, because I want to say it just right. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Just like Sue Storm, First Issue Club loves a good read.
Hey!
Comic book jokes.
You altered it for the new year.
Didn't I? And that's what this is all about, keeping it fresh and new for you folks. Hey, I like to throw a little jazz in there sometimes. As a music fan, you know, I'm bringing a little bit of that jazz flavor into everything I do. Unpredictability.
A little improv.
Off-the-cuff improv.
Dabble of heroin.
That's exactly right. Nothing like a speedball every once in a while.
To really pep up
To
your
keep
comic book
the
podcast.
Party going.
And sometimes it's about the words you don't say.
Yeah, it's the words in between the words.
That's right.
Yeah, this week on First Issue Club, we're mixing our uppers with our uppers and having a real fun episode.
Zooted and booted, ready for the show.
I am Mike D.
I am Greg.
Vargas.
Oh, no,
Vargas.
he took downers.
He took downers.
He took the black pill.
Okay. As always, what we're going to do, if this is your first time listening to the show, we're going to talk about first issues, some great onboarding points into the comic book world. So you can catch your footing along with us. It's kind of reading club on what's fresh and coming out that you can just walk into your comic book store and pick up and see if you like it. Before that, though, we're going to talk about some comic book industry news, get you up to speed on what's buzzworthy and happening, a couple things with some of our ongoing books that we're reading that we're excited about. So let's tarry no further and talk comic book news. Greg, I know you have something.
Yeah, breaking news. Comic books still being made from paper.
Now,
Hey.
in a digital era.
Yeah.
Now, can I just say something about these pixels that are being used to tell stories nowadays?
Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
These trees made into books.
You would think that the tactile experience being removed.
Okay, now the big hit is, it just got announced last week that Jason Aaron, hometown boy,
We're in Kansas City.
KC Mo, will be the new head writer for the IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series, which a lot of people, when they first heard the news, went, all right. And everyone seems pretty excited about it.
To clarify, are they... Because he's taking over after 150, right? That's the landmark.
Yes.
Are they resetting to 1?
I
Or is
don't-
he just picking up...
I don't think so. I think he's going with
151.
151.
Okay.
That blows my mind. Is Jason Aaron
Oh, get in close,
the
everyone.
most popular person to ever write Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, including Kevin Eastman and Laird?
Wow.
Yes.
That may almost be heresy.
No, yes. Because Eastman and Laird...
Became popular
they made
because
their
of...
nut. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think
We're
Yes.
all in agreement.
Yeah.
It took me a
A
second
great
to get there.
conversation.
It took me a second to get there, but
It's a hot take, I think, but it might be the right one.
yeah, I think you're right. Maybe most popular is a good way to put it.
I feel like we're hitting a point wherein things like this that started in comic books, the people who are writing now that are in their like 30s and 40s who can write whatever the fuck they want to write because they've really made a name for themselves in the comic book industry are getting into these properties that may not have seemed like cash grab IP things for a little while, right? But when you think about what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles really is at its core, God, I do sound like I'm fucking zooted.
Yeah. Because really, now listen, it's really about adolescent reptiles learning the greatest martial arts.
But TMNT really is like it's
about family.
It's like Batman legacy type characters, right? Just like comic book characters that have been around forever.
Yeah.
And you can tell whatever stories with them until the end of time. Sometimes they're going to be fun, family-friendly stories, and sometimes they're going to be dark and serious stories. They are, I guess, pop culture icon sort of figures that can do a lot of different things for a lot of different fandoms.
As soon as you make it to pillowcases and bed sheets, you've reached a status that can never be taken away.
Weirdest bed sheets I ever had as a little kid, the Dick Tracy movie.
Hold on. Now you inserted a special little twist on there. The Warren Beatty movie.
Specifically the Warren Beatty movie. I had Madonna on my bed sheets as a child.
Yeah. How that shape your journey into adulthood.
I just love fabulous costumes. I love a little bit of flair.
I love to vote.
Rhinestones are your jam. We have noticed.
Yes, yeah. That is I had Dick Tracy bed sheets. I also had.
Did you really?
Yeah, but it wasn't the movie.
What are the odds that both of us would have had Dick Tracy bed sheets?
Well, because I think when that movie came out,
yeah,
like
the bed sheets are really cheap.
Yeah, and like,
but yours weren't the movie.
No, It was like
they were drawn like the comic strip figures.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was on purpose of just like
we're gonna have to Google these after the show and see which ones you had and which ones I had.
Okay,
because I'm wondering if we had the same, and I'm just thinking mine were the movie, and you're thinking yours were the comic strips.
We should do that. 1980s Dick Tracy bed sheets. That won't turn up anything weird for our Google images. Hello, FBI. We got them.
Honey, I found my dream bed sheets. They're back in stock.
What were we talking about?
Jason Aaron on Ninja Turtles.
Yes, Jason Aaron on Ninja Turtles.
Right. Do you guys think that the expectations for him are going to be too high?
Yeah. That comes with the territory of being that popular, though. When you create a decorated run on Marvel Comics with Thor, Avengers, and you did a little DC with Superman and Batman, like the expectation is maybe unfairly too high.
Well, okay, let me say this though, that TMNT comics have always been a certain level of like camp.
Sure.
That I don't think is going to be too tough for Jason Aaron to just like waltz right in and blow people's fucking minds.
See,
but that's for people who've been reading TMNT for the last 150 issues, right? Yeah. Not necessarily for all these people who are going to be like, I'm cannonballing in because Jason Aaron is writing this.
At 151, baby.
I'm expecting something equivalent to his Thor run.
Imagine if he does do that.
Like he just like stays on it for a super long time.
Or the equivalent of an impactful story as his Jane Foster run in the world of TMNT. It will just solidify him as like a fucking kingmaker.
I almost wish that the TMNT, that the comics hadn't already done something like a Jenica, because this would have been a really cool time to introduce a new female turtle.
Yeah.
But whatever happened to that character? Is she still kind of like in the
the
storyline?
She's dipping and bopping around. See, bring back Venus de Milo.
They did.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not in the current IDW run, but like she has been canon in the comics.
Cowards.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought because this character was introduced for the cartoon, right?
The live action TV show.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wait, live action TV show?
Yeah.
Yep. It happened in the 90s.
Yeah.
I don't remember this, I don't think.
But you remember Venus de Milo?
I know that name as a female turtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're saying female. As a woman turtle.
Yeah.
A female turtle.
Excuse me.
I think
I guess it works when you're talking about turtles.
Yeah, sheathe your katana, my lord.
It is kind of scientific at this point.
Sheathe your katana.
A female turtle.
And let's protect milady.
Oh,
My finest bottle of red.
I think we need a different topic.
Yeah. I'm excited for it. Jason Aaron on TMNT.
Yeah.
I will definitely get the first arc of his
Just
TMNT
out of
stuff.
curiosity alone, if you're a big enough comic fan
Yeah.
to probably even be like listening to our podcast regularly, then you probably need to buy the first run of this just to be part of the conversation, right?
And that's what IDW wants.
Yeah.
They want that, residual overlap of Jason Aaron fans, TMNT fans. Like they're like, well, let's see what this is about, and they're probably going to succeed pretty handsomely.
My hope is that expectation, because I think the general consensus on the current 150 issue run of TMNT is that it's way better than it had any right to be.
Yes.
Like specifically around the first, like the 100 issue mark, it just got like markedly better. Like same with Power Rangers, right?
Yeah.
Where like it has like Ryan Parrott just like knocked it out of the park, and everybody was like, "This is fucking amazing." So I hope that people don't see that and they're like, "Well, if this no-name guy can make Turtles this good, Jason Aaron should be able to make it godly,"
Yeah.
I always recommend TMNT Urban Legends to people who are like,
Yeah.
I've always kind of liked them, and I know they're comic books.
Is that the Image series?
No, this is the IDW series that like Kevin Eastman started doing the covers for.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a continuation of the original run.
Yeah.
So it's got this kind of like
Brutality.
to it that's like, I don't know, kind of what like you as like an 80s kid who wasn't really reading the comics but grew up on Ninja Turtles, but you're always kind of been in defense of them because you're like, it's actually for adults though.
Yeah. It's kind of grown up, actually.
It's kind of actually mature.
Yeah. They say cuss words.
There's a girl turtle now.
Yeah. Heard of Venus de Milo?
That series was rad. I really enjoyed it. And it was doing things like cutting main characters' arms off and killing other main characters. Like it had like serious repercussions because they were like the original series kind of was letting it hang loose with a lot of these characters that ultimately became cemented as, pop culture figures that we all recognize now.
Yeah.
But it was easy to say like their destiny has changed because they were brand new. They didn't carry the weight they carried then. And
Well,
so
they were
they handled all the characters with the same kind of...
Yeah. It was an indie upstart, the TMNT
Yeah.
stuff. Like, they didn't give a shit, really, about what happened to these characters. And then they got that fucking
then
cartoon
they did.
show.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we need to keep this golden goose alive as long as possible.
the old Technodrome.
I had one.
Same.
I didn't.
That cool eyeball that flew down the
little
ramp.
Yep. Broop.
Knocked down one of your figures. Always looks so much cooler in the commercial.
Yeah.
All right.
What else we got, Andy?
You guys remember Turtles in Time?
The movie?
The game?
Welcome to
Oh, yes.
our sister show. You remember when?
Turtlecast. That probably is a show, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Turtlecast.
I don't know. Did I have any news?
I thought you had some. Anyway, no, we don't. The biggest news was
didn't.
Jason Aaron.
And I was going to talk about just some X-Men stuff.
Oh, yeah. Catch us up.
Oh, yeah, the fall of Krakoa.
Yeah, so we're just starting into the fall of the House of X and fall of Powers of X. I think that's the name of the two
Is it
titles.
Trials of X?
Well, there's a trial going on inside the fall of the House of X.
Of course.
I see where you may have been confused, my dear
Yeah.
fellow.
God.
But a lot of these ongoings have been wrapping up lately. And I think if you're a big X head, you've had like monumental moments that have been very cool. But if you haven't been reading it, I mean, all this stuff has read like gobbledygook to you for a long time. And before I'm going to talk a little bit about the first issue of Fall of the House of X later in the episode, but a preview into that conversation is that issue is written in a very accessible, straightforward manner.
Is that accessible with an X?
Accessible.
Nice.
And it's almost a letdown to me as someone who is like so far into this like high fantasy. Like you can kind of equate what X-Men is to in 2024 to like those really nuts sci-fi fantasy novel series that just get so in depth and in the weeds with all the details that there's entire books of just like the lands and the types of people and
just Wheel of Time. It's Wheel of Time.
Yeah, you read all the Dune books and I watched the movie.
Right. Yeah.
You know what spice tastes like.
Yeah. And I think Timothée Chalamet's cute.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
So if I were to tell you guys that we're finding out who is reaching Dominion and that we're getting to like the Technarch like comeuppance and all this stuff, it's like those are things that are very exciting if you've been reading X for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And for most people it's like, why can't X-Men just be like the team in blue suits fighting bad guys again? And
I've gathered that Orcus is the bad guy.
Orcus is a collection of bad guys.
How about that?
So I'm a little bit, as such an X-head, I'm at a bit of a crossroads of like excited to see the end of this, and it's cool to see the comeuppance, but I also know that it means an ultimate abandonment of all these great things that like I'm realizing. I was telling Andy before we started recording that like these issues are making me realize how much I love Kieran Gillen and Cy Spurrier and how much work went into the mythos and library of all the X stuff and how convoluted these stories are, and the fact that they can bring everything together in the way that they did is like truly profound. So I think I'm one of the few people who's sad to see it go because it was such an endeavor to keep up with all of these comics and follow all this stuff. But if you can, it's been very rewarding. But just quick hits on a handful of the books. We talked a little bit about this maybe a couple weeks ago, but I'm holding Uncanny Avengers. If you're watching on our video, we've got video versions of the podcast out on YouTube. But we found out who Captain Krakoa was. He was evil Captain America.
We called it, baby.
Nailed it.
Stevel.
Stevel. Oh my God.
Knievel.
Hashtag Stevel, folks. Get it trending.
Dark X-Men ended, which was the Madeline Pryor led series where she's kind of like got a building in New York City that is like the how would you put it? It's basically like the foreign embassy to like Limbo, which is like the hell realm that she rules.
Sure.
And so that was a really fun concept for like a side story, but we kind of see where this leaves Madeline in going into the new era. So that's if you're into the Madeline Pryor stuff, this was a 5-issue series that was just really fun to see like what mind state she's at and what relationship she has with the X-Men before you get into the new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great cover. That's a great homage cover.
Really cool homage cover, yeah, on Immortal X-Men, which is the Kieran Gillen book that's has been my favorite X-Men book of the last couple years. It's on issue 18, or that's the last one that I've read, and we're seeing a lot of the comeuppance with Mother Righteous, who is one of the 4 or so Sinisters that we're following, a lot of variations of Mr. Sinister. This is one that I would say even though it's amazing, don't bother picking it up because you need to have read all of this stuff over the last 5 years to like follow what's going on in this book.
I honestly can't wait for the collected hardcovers of like the Hickman era.
Dude, but
just to like play catch
There's no
up.
way.
You know what they did with the soft bounds, right? They did them in eras.
Oh, right.
So it's like volume 1 is like 6 different number 1 issues. Volume 2 is the same series, but issue 2.
And then I think they stopped doing it after a while because it became too unruly.
Yeah, that shit sucks.
Yeah, it's wild.
So
Okay.
my hope is that, I want to read all this stuff in a row, but I don't want to read 5 hardbacks in like varying orders. Like, just give me Immortal X-Men, right?
Well, yeah, I think that's the problem with this is the stuff that happens in Immortal X-Men is so contingent upon the other things that if you're like, hey, I just subscribe to Marvel Unlimited and I'm going to save $3,000 reading all this stuff,
Sure.
because it's just in my digital subscription. One of the downfalls of Unlimited is that not everything has a reading order that's like, okay, now you have to read issue 28 of X-Men to understand what's happening in issue 12 of Immortal X-Men. So, I don't know. Best of luck to you if you try to catch up on this era of X-Men, but I think it's like very inaccessible. And again, I love it, but I understand the frustration that most fans have.
Do they include in the Unlimited thing? I guess you might not know, but they have that like timeline in the back of every issue, right? That's like a month by month thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have that in the digital one?
I don't know that they do. I know that they're on Unlimited. Like I can search for like they'll put together issues of like, oh, here's all of Kraven's Last Hunt, even though that took the place across Spectacular, Web of, and Amazing.
Yeah.
But they do that for these self-contained things that are like 7-8 issue arcs, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really tough to do.
Yeah, for 100+ issues.
In order for like hundreds and hundreds of issues of like, I mean, we're talking Excalibur, X-Force, Wolverine,
Marauders,
this Jean Grey
X-Corp.
series, Marauders, X-Corp, X-Force, X-Men Red, X-Men Blue, all these different giant sizes that happen throughout the course of this. X-Men Red, the war for Mars has ended, and this is the issue in 18 by Al Ewing, again, one of my favorite writers, who tied a really cool bow onto that story. I think we've still got a couple issues of X-Men Red coming out to like really tie that story up, but this was kind of the big comeuppance. One of the coolest things, so I've got Uncanny Spider-Man number 5 and X-Men Blue Origins number 1, which if you are reading Uncanny Spider-Man and you didn't get see, I'm having a hard time following it even as I'm holding these in my hand, and you didn't get X-Men Blue Origins, you're doing yourself a disservice because this is issue like 4.5, which again, X-Men shit, so frustrating, right? To split all this stuff into different key series. This is one of the coolest X-Men books I've read in a while.
So good, yeah.
And it changed the canon of who Nightcrawler's parents are.
Yeah.
And so I'll give the rundown of that. And if you don't want this ruined for you, maybe skip ahead a minute. So we've always believed that Mystique was Nightcrawler's mother and Azazel was Nightcrawler's father.
Right.
It turns out that when Mystique transforms into a male figure, she becomes male. She's not just like a woman with the appearance of a man. Her genetics become, she's got the right chromosomes.
Yeah.
So she...
And equipment.
So she basically fathered a child with Destiny. So Destiny and Mystique are the parents of Nightcrawler.
Okay.
So dope.
Nightcrawler's 2 moms.
Destiny saw this situation because she needed to manipulate Azazel in some other situations. And then there's this whole like tragic storyline with this wherein Nightcrawler's relationship with Mystique was erased from her brain by Charles, or that history was rewritten so she wouldn't remember everything. And in this kind of Krakoan fall wherein Charles was sending everybody out, and people were like using their brain trick to like prevent Charles's influence. Her brain got kicked out of Charles's influence, and she started to remember all the stuff that happened with Nightcrawler. So X-Men Blue Origins #1. If you're an X-head, I think even if you haven't been following that stuff, I would say this is probably just one of those really cool legacy stories now that gives you like a really interesting origin that is worth picking up and having in your collection.
Yeah, I picked it up just because I'm a Nightcrawler guy.
Yeah. Really awesome issue. It's like standalone issue. You don't need to read the rest of Uncanny Spider-Man to enjoy it, but it's fun if you do. And then X-Men and X-Force issue like 30 and 47 are the last couple that I've read, and we've got some stuff with Doom and the mutants that have been in Latveria.
Oh, yeah.
And they're probably going to play a big part in like joining the mutant cause and making a difference, while we've got so many other mutants in the nowhere zone. And then our X-Force stuff is just, Benjamin Percy goodness and violence and espionage and spy shit. If that's your speed, this is the X books to read for that. So.
Has X-Force been running? Is that still the same run as when they started?
Yes, this is one of the only books. Benjamin Percy's books in particular, Wolverine and X-Force are some of the only books that haven't like just stopped or like kickstarted in volumes. So good on him for
sticking with it,
having comics that rules. Persevered throughout the entire Krakoan era of X-Men. So I guess sorry for the tangent if you're not into X-Men stuff. That was probably just like gobbledygook words, but
for those of you who are into X-Men, you're welcome.
Yeah, that was more for me, I guess. It was very self-serving to do all that.
You had to get it out of your head.
I needed to get it out of my system. I just read 10 X books this past week, and they were all hitting for me on all cylinders. So nice. It's nice to have invested this much time in
and money
into all these X books, and then feel like I'm really getting a great experience out of it here at the end.
Do you think you'll go as hard on the X books in the new era?
I don't know. I think it kind of depends on what the new X books are. I have a feeling, especially based on how Fall Of is being written, that they're going to be a little more accessible and a little more peeled back and hey, here are just some your favorite heroes going on adventures and beating the bad guys. And that's great and all, but it's kind of I'm so in the weeds that I'm used to a higher level of fidelity.
Yeah.
I guess is a way to put it from the X-Men. So that might disappoint me a little bit as a mega fan.
I like X-Men because I don't like easy stuff. That's why I choose X-Men.
It sounds very up your butt, hoity-toity about I like the finer things and confusion and convolution. But honestly, if you're putting this much time and effort into it, it's I want to use my brain a little.
I have heard that Marvel is aware of the convoluted nature of the different books and what happens when and all that kind of stuff.
I'm hearing rumors it's going to be scaled back.
Well, I think there's still room for having depth inside of your stories, but just having X-Men the book and not X-Men plus this 5-issue miniseries and 2 other ongoings plus this event. You know what I mean?
I think the toughest thing was it's amazing how they orchestrated so many comics that interwove, but that's what made these impossible to read. And it probably would be nicer for people to do it kind of when it started. Excalibur was a book that you could just be I'm just reading Excalibur and I really like it, but not all the X-Men books have been like that. So you just might have more of them be here's a standalone one that you can enjoy And if you, I don't know, dip out of it, then
I mean, as someone who's not an X dude, I love X-Men books, and I'm definitely going to jump on the new stuff, but I would rather see X-Men go twice a month than have to pick up an additional title.
sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, just keep it in one place
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
Exactly. One
All right.
man's opinion.
That was your X-Men Minute.
We'll see. X-Men 20 minutes.
Vargas.
We teamed up again.
Yeah.
We always read the same books.
Yep. We read Cobra Commander
Yep.
from Joshua Williamson out on Image.
Yep. And
And then
Avengers Twilight.
Avengers Twilight by Chipper Zdarsky.
Um,
Let's start with Cobra Commander.
hell yeah. This book fucking rules.
So for someone who I know, okay, so I know of Cobra Commander, right? I've watched the TV shows. Don't really know much about the comic book stuff. I know he has a snake bit, like
yeah, that's his bit.
His S's linger, and his name's Cobra Commander. So I was really interested in this book because they really are treating it kind of like an origin story of like who he is, where he came from, and why he wears that helmet. I didn't know that he came from like a weird snake religion
Yeah, he comes from like Snake Atlantis.
civilization.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, dude.
Thank you. Fucking thank you.
I think that this was invented for this. Some G.I. Joe, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
I think that they came up with that whole idea for the Energon universe.
That is it. When I read that, it added a layer of disbelief to the story where I was just like, no, we're not doing this. Because I can handle robots in disguise. I can handle G.I. Joes policing the world and fun uniforms. What I cannot handle is a secret underground hippie snake culture.
You know what would have been cool? If how they did Void Rivals, where it was like, oh, we didn't know this was like a Transformers universe book, and like people just picked up this indie comic.
Yeah.
It would have been cool if this book was titled like The Life of Eddie Johnson.
Yeah.
and then it's like these two parents
Eddie's story.
who are bringing their kids into who are bringing their child into therapy, and they're just like, he's just not getting on in school and not
He holds
making
on to his
friends,
S's, doctor.
and he's very violent. And then you see him in his his group therapy, and he's like, this is why I can't get along with my friends at school.
My friends have too many arms.
Kid named Duke beats him up.
Yeah, just constantly. Why did you have to say that name?
And at the end, he's like, I'm embracing the snake. I'll become a commander.
Yeah. I'll become the thing that I hate the most.
And you're like, oh shit, this is a backdoor Cobra Commander book.
Honestly, I kind of wish we treated Cobra Commander like we treated the Joker. We don't know fuck all about the Joker.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him more sinister. I don't need to know where Cobra Commander came from. I don't need to know that he had a boss that had a snake name and a big snake chair that he sat in. What made him sinister was the constant and relentless hatred for the G.I. Joes, and he was willing to spend any amount of money and lose any amount of life in his henchmen to just foil any of their plans. And that's what I think we're going to get, because there was a cool moment where he's basically keeping a mangled Megatron alive to steal the data from his robot brain, which that is what they should have just really leaned into that. That's how the book starts. Cobra Commander, you find out he's hijacked Megatron, and he's just that's how the Cobras get started. They're using his brain, his data, his technology to get a leg up on G.I. Joe. You like Snake World.
Okay. Here's my take.
Yeah, I'm a snake guy.
I love things that can't blink. What can I say?
I think it's a cool direction to go
Okay.
to make. Okay, as
Listen,
I'm not trying to
So,
yuck your yum.
I know.
I'm not trying to yuck your yum.
Okay. I am getting like Namor vibes from this. Where like
Okay.
Cobra Commander, he lives in this society that Earth doesn't know about. It's not necessarily good, it's not necessarily evil. It just exists in secret. And they are clearly like some sort of higher developed society,
Yeah,
right?
when you first started reading it, I was just like, "Is this an alien
Yeah,
race
that's
or like an
exactly
alternate
what I thought.
dimension? Like what?
Yeah.
What happened here?"
So I liked the idea that he is like the pinnacle of evil in this advanced society and gets somehow exiled to people realm,
Yeah,
and now we have to deal with him. I got like,
it's like the G.I. Joe version of Enchanted.
I mean, kind of, but he's evil.
Yeah,
So I got a lot of like Captain America vibes, I think, is where the story's gonna go between him and Duke. Where like Duke is kind of just a guy, like he's just a soldier, and Cobra Commander is this like,
also a soldier, but like a bad, like it's like spy versus spy.
yeah, but one of the spies is like a super soldier and extra cunning and a sociopath and all these like things.
Yeah,
So I think it'll be cool maybe to see more of a regular Joe, if you'll forgive the pun, to have to deal with this guy
Yep.
who's going to be starting this evil society
Yep.
here on Earth.
There-
I totally understand the criticism of saying Snake World is dumb.
it was such a hard
It was weird.
left to start the book out with, because you're like, what the? Did they put the wrong cover on this book?
Yeah.
it's tough to take something that you already know and are familiar with and be like, hey, here's a whole new corner of it that you didn't know about this entire time. Such a fine line to dance to have that come across like well. I guess like shout out to Joshua Williamson for like swinging for the fences on like,
Yeah, and it wasn't a bad swing. Like, it was still a home
I
run.
mean, this-
but I was
this
just like,
charac-
oh, what the?
this character is just so over the top already.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That it's kind of like, yeah, give him like
Yeah.
of the wildest origin story you can think of.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, would it be better if he takes off his helmet and he's like, "All right, time to go home.
Yeah.
Clocking out at 5."
I think maybe. I love that.
Hey, Jennifer, running late.
Yeah, that he's kind of like I said, the life of whatever the
Yeah.
mundane name I used
Yeah.
was.
I need to pick up my kids.
Tom
at
Tomlinson.
Soccer practice.
Yeah.
And then he comes home and he's
We're
just
out
a
of
guy
milk.
with a lisp who gets bullied by
Yeah.
his overbearing wife.
Honey, how was your day? I ran into Duke again.
You need to just ignore him.
Yeah. Your therapist said to leave him. I know what Dr. Brown said.
I will say the intro pages
Ruled.
fucking
Ruled.
ruled. It's just got Cobra Commander going to this weird bar in Alaska.
Yeah. I need a car. It's
Yeah,
like
he
Terminator.
just like he terminates this bar and just like destroys these guys. So I read that as this is what happens after he gets like exiled or leaves Cobra
Yep.
Land.
Yep.
Okay.
The vibe of it was sick. The only thing that threw me off was the new kind of
Totally.
interpretation of who he is. Because honestly, well, I don't need to know. I don't
Sure.
I don't care
Totally.
where he came from. It makes it scary. It makes it scarier if he just shows up already established.
Yeah.
Like, that's so weird. Like, for a villain.
Yeah.
To like someone comes to like your door fully established. I have a squad of goons, all this machinery, and I'm here to kill you. You're like, I've never even heard of you, but you look fucking legit and scary. Like, that is like so beyond, like, you don't need a secret realm of hippie snake people in my mind. Anyway,
Can I just say, this is the most Jack Kirby cover I've ever seen
there's
in my life.
Crackle.
This is the David Asia variant.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
It's sick.
There's Crackle on it, and these are like machines straight out of like
New Gods.
Yeah. Just like random pipes and circle levers and
I got his variant for Duke also, so I wanted the matching.
yeah, right on.
Well, you might need a new cover for that one because that one looks a little benty.
Yeah, I know.
and finger smudge.
They're all fucked up, but you know what?
Thank you, Clint.
Ugh, Clint's.
What else do we read, Greg?
We read Avengers, Twilight from Chip Zdarsky, and I want to say all of this before I say the bit part.
Oh, okay.
I really liked this book. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a fun idea. The characters in it are familiar, but they're also kind of fish out of water.
Mm-hmm.
The story that they're telling is kind of relevant to what the world we're living in today.
What?
Where I'm really kind of trepidatious here is this book seems like boomer bait. This seems like Clint Eastwood screaming at a chair. This seems like Shawshank Redemption on TBS on Sunday afternoon. Of just like the older generation knows best. These young whippersnappers don't know what they're doing.
Oh, you think so?
Now I get
Okay.
now I get that there's an exaggeration because it's like a pseudo-fascist overtaking of the current society that they're in. I know that it is based upon H-Day, an event that happens in this book where Ultron comes back and I guess he like boosts the powers of all the villains. While does he decrease the power to the other superheroes, or like he just like fucks? Ultron just fucks with everything.
Yeah.
Essentially. A lot of people die. Boston is like just gone now. So I get that like they were cast out because of like it appears that they let the world down, but it was really like more behind the scenes than really what's happening. And like you get this commentary of Nepo baby Stark like saying that like these old guys don't know what they're talking about anymore. Like how dare they want to change the rhetoric now? And like there's an interesting thing about a new documentary coming out trying to make the Red Hood or the Red Skull look like a good guy.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to take out Hitler. And Captain America was like, he wanted to take out Hitler because he wanted to be a better Hitler. Like, what the fuck? So I get that, but it all just seemed like wrapped in this like ball of like what I see people who watch Fox News a lot of, just like, you know, these kids today don't fucking know, like on their TikToks, they don't know how to like make money or something. It's just like, and I know Chip Zdarsky isn't that writer.
Yeah.
So I know something like is gonna flip here and it's gonna blow my mind, but like that's what the taste I got after I finished this book.
I see where you're coming from, where like it wasn't expressly shown like who's the dictator, who's the fascist.
Right.
So it yeah.
Because there definitely is a fascist undertone to it.
For sure.
There's a curfew thing in place. There's like
but
really strict laws.
Yeah, but the villain is Gen Z Tony Stark Jr.
Yes.
Right.
And like that's how Captain America is kind of like painting it.
Right.
And that's how old Luke Cage and old Matt Murdock is painting it, of just like these fucking young kids today don't know fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like we used to fight for this country, and I don't know. In the world that the story is being told, they are correct, but it would be easy for anyone to like change the narrative of this book into today's terms and misconstrued what this book is actually about.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Certainly taking this issue isolated, that would be incredibly easy.
Yeah.
I see this end up being like it gave me a ton of Spider-Man Reign vibes,
Mm-hmm.
that Carrie Kyle Andrews thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think these guys are going to inspire like the new generation to rise up and like take it back, whatever.
Yeah.
That's how I see the story going. But you're absolutely right. I did not get that, but you're absolutely right. Somebody could read this book and be like, we need to show these kids who the real America is.
Let's make superheroes great again.
Yeah.
It's like, is this Wild Hogs 3? Like, Marvel edition?
For sure.
But it was cool that seeing Luke Cage, like, get a new Defenders team going.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see that, like, Luke Cage's bulletproof skin is now, like, his coffin.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, getting really rigid and he can't move a lot. So he's, like, kind of just, like, stuck in his own body.
Yeah, he had like some sort of like exoskeleton that helped him walk, and he's like basically wheelchair bound.
Yeah. The artwork in this was crackerjack, man.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was like
super
very
wild.
futuristic. Yeah. Like
very cyberpunk.
Yeah, every cyberpunk thing you can ever imagine is represented here in this book.
Yeah.
Speaking of Luke Cage, a book we didn't cover on First Issue Club.
Gang War.
That is so fucking cool. Not Gang War, but Timeless. The new Timeless #1.
Oh, right.
Fucking unbelievable.
I cannot believe I missed this book.
I ordered you that copy.
Yeah.
It just hasn't come yet. But holy shit, it's such a good read.
Is Miracle Man in this one?
And it's like...
No, like future Moon Knight fights future Luke Cage.
Yeah, and Luke Cage is like overtime. Like, he's one of the like last standing heroes. I think because of his kind of like can't kill me powers, he's overtime gained like the powers of several other heroes, and you can see on the cover of it. I don't think this is a spoiler. On the cover of it, he's got the Iron Fist.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of other things that tie into it that are really rad, and so him and MK2, which is this like future Moon Knight.
MK2 sounds like a South American gang.
No, it's just Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat. Really awesome standalone issue that I recommend people read. But the one thing that I'll dig on Timeless is that they've done it 3 times now.
Yep.
And each time it's supposed to be like, hey, here's like a thing to work towards or like get excited about. And I don't feel like any of them have ever paid off in a way that I've noticed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's just like, hey, I'm fine with time. If Timeless is just going to be a one-shot once a year, that's like, what if this happened with a couple characters in the future?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yes.
Have someone really interesting write it and tell like a cool what if sort of story, but don't like promise that it's gonna be like what the next year of Marvel Comics leads to if you don't have a plan in place for shit to lead there.
Yeah, don't blue ball me with Miracle Man
Yeah.
to join the MCU, their Marvel Universe, and then
Never do it.
Yeah. It's almost like it's like a wish list that Marvel wants to do. Which is like, hey, it'd be cool if we could pull this off, right, folks?
Well, so speaking of Miracle Man and books we picked up, issue 7 came out this week
Of the Miracle Man.
Miracle Man, the Silver Age, the Neil Gaiman series.
Oh, okay.
That's gotta be the last one, right?
I thought 6 was the last one.
Oh,
weird.
maybe they found another one.
Maybe.
Neil's like, oh, I got this one too, actually.
Actually,
What the hell? And then I read the new Constantine book.
that slapped too.
Yeah, it was good. It was okay. It was very good, but if you don't know who John Constantine is,
Yeah.
skip it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I love Cy Spurrier. I love Hellblazer, and it was very fun, very cool.
Is it a Black Label thing?
Yeah. Yes, because they say a lot of naughty words in this one.
Yeah.
And it's a Sandman universe thing. So
Oh,
if you're
okay.
not,
Oh, yeah, I forgot. God damn
yeah,
it.
if you're not up with the Sandman universe stuff,
I like John Constantine being kind of the guy who like hops between
Totally.
some of these
Yeah.
things. It's like really cool.
Yeah, because like Dream shows up, you're like, what the?
Yeah.
What?
When they did the Sandman stuff in that like Watchmen preview,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa, this is gonna be fucking crazy. And then like, did that stuff ever pay off?
Kind of.
I don't remember it.
Are you talking about the
Dreaming
Doomsday
like
Clock
showed
thing?
up in like the first like Doomsday Clock like lead in.
They spun all that out into Sandman universe.
Yeah.
And they just had its
That was
own
just that
thing.
thing was just like Sandman's gonna come back to DC.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, that's all
Yeah.
it meant.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was gonna be a part of Doomsday Clock, and it wasn't.
No.
It was just like, okay, so we've got other universes mishmashing together because of the stuff that's happening in
Yeah.
this lead into Doomsday Clock.
Yeah.
Which explains why.
Yeah, kind of just making Sandman stuff canon in DC
Yeah.
since Vertigo's gone.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And that's a
I just needed someone to say that to me 5 years ago.
Sure.
And I would have been fine.
Sure.
Instead, I was confused for like 12 months.
that's a tough task for DC to take on, because it's like trying to incorporate masterpiece theater with like monster trucks. And like you're just like, this is gonna be great, and you're like, oh, I don't know, like we may have to like really work at this, but maybe masterpiece theater and wrestling, we can maybe do that. And so like I can just see them trying to like smash characters in. You're like, I don't really think that.
You can take elements of those series, like the John Constantine is the perfect place, right? Where like you can have Dream show up
Yeah.
and help John every once in a while, or like Swamp Thing can go and help Superman fight Poison Ivy, but then he can also go back and be sad about stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget, Hellblazer was on Vertigo for ever.
Yeah.
So like he is like the greatest go-between of just like he's superhero enough where he works in DC.
Yeah.
Specifically Justice League Dark. And then he's like moody and emo enough where he can like hang out with the Vertigo characters and be like, you guys like the Smiths? And it's like, you want to smoke some cloves? Like, so.
Hey, how about that last splash page though of that Constantine book?
Which one? What was it? I remember the porno one in
That
the
was
beginning.
the first one. Of course you remember that.
Because he crawls out of the ground as a skeleton. He's
Yeah.
just like, I need water. Are they shooting the porno? They
he
just like
falls down
falls
the
down the Hollywood Hill.
No, that splash page where he's calling out for Swamp Thing to help him,
Oh, right.
and Swamp Thing is there on a golf course,
Yes.
and his whole face is like the golf hole.
Yeah. Like the
And
whole land.
I
yeah.
had to like stare at it, and I was like, "What is this? Like, where is that voice coming from?" And then you realize that like his mouth is a sand
The
trap,
sand trap, yeah.
and his
Oh, okay.
eye is like one of the holes, and it's like,
Yeah. It's like one of
It's
those, like,
wild.
it's like the last page in a Mad magazine where they fold
Yeah.
together. You're like, oh, there you are, Swampy.
yeah, you had to like squint and hold it.
It's a
back,
magic
and-
eye.
Yeah,
It's a scooter.
but it was very cool. Like once I got
Yeah.
it was sick as hell.
Yeah. So, like I said, if you're heavily into John Constantine and that world, you're going to love it. But if not, there are other books that came out that you can read.
Yeah.
Speaking of other books that came out that you can read, this one's a couple weeks old. Spider-Gwen Smash. This is, I think, one of the more accessible books that I've read in a long time that features a superhero. So Maria Flores, I believe is her name, wrote this, and she wrote Dead Lucky and Radiant Pink,
Hell yeah.
which were really great,
Yep.
like female-led superhero books that were just great. And this book takes the Spider-Gwen we know and love back in her like home universe. She's got a band with Mary Jane Watson and Betty Brant and a handful of these other people.
What's the band's called something?
I think it's just
funny.
called the Mary Janes.
Yeah, that's right.
And they get invited to go on tour with Dazzler.
Oh,
And
cool.
so they're just like going city to city opening for Dazzler. And then you find out that they, not only is the Mary Janes just a good, cool rock band, but they also specifically recruited them because someone is coming after Dazzler. And they know that Spider-Gwen is in the Mary Janes, and they just want some extra firepower on set for all these shows that are getting attacked, where they're trying to like save Dazzler and save everybody at the same time. So she's more or less a hired gun
That's funny.
than anything else. And a couple people got injured in Dazzler's band, so they're opening and playing in Dazzler's band now.
That's cool.
I think they kind of posed it where you're kind of wondering does Dazzler have an alternate agenda? Is she like
Hurting.
Is she to be believed, or is she kind of setting up the attacks on the show? Like, we're not quite sure. It felt kind of like a gray area. So it's going to be, I think, a shorter series that'll just be like a really fun, rock-centered, like fun characters, just that they're in an alternate universe. So you're not going to get bogged down in the details of who these characters are. They're just like Dazzler's like freshly introduced in this universe.
Perfect.
And then less accessible, I mentioned this the other day that I'd started reading it, and I just wanted to tie a bow on it, is The Bloody Dozen, the Shadow College tie-in book that Charles Soule and Raphael Albuquerque are doing. And this is a family of
Astronauts.
really intelligent people who, were like combat trained astronauts, and they need a certain group of people to go find this like space prison that's close to the sun. And we find out at the end of it all. I mean, I'm going to spoil the first issue because this will tell you whether you're going to be into this or not. But you find out that there is a 50, 60-year-old space prison that's close to the sun. And they're like, well, what could be on this thing that's like obviously hasn't had people visit it in years? And why is it so close to the sun? We've got vampires.
Hell yes.
So if they try to escape, they're going to get fried, right?
Holy shit.
And so something is happening on this like little space prison that requires this like tactical team. And these people are like the only people with like a weird set of skills enough for...
Dude, stop talking. You struck oil.
Yeah.
Fucking space prison with vampires.
Sign up The Rock and Jason Statham.
It's... I think...
Hollywood, are you listening?
Yeah.
I think, obviously, Charles Soule is a great writer, and I think they nailed the tone with this, where it's like the subject matter is a little goofy, but you can also do it with like enough of like corny like action movie sort of script to get you like actually kind of into it in a funny way. It's good.
Bloody Dozen instead of Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
I just fucking got that.
This should be the next Expendables script.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So that's another one that, like, even though it's tied into something that's called The Shrouded College, that's another
Hell to Pay
universe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Hell to Pay was another book that tied into this. And I think there's going to be like 6 more.
Yeah,
like,
they're doing like
it's like
5 or 6.
Yeah, it's like
more.
2. These are like 2 of 6 that are going to be Shrouded College books.
Okay.
You do not need to read the other book at all. So both the Spider-Gwen Smash and Bloody Dozen are 2 books that came out within the last month at your local comic book shops that you can pick up still. They haven't sold out, and have a great time with these 2 issues, I think, if either of those concepts sound familiar to you.
Yeah.
Fun to you.
I think you may have sold me on Bloody Dozen, to be honest.
It was rad. It was fun. I liked it a lot.
Hell to Pay was awesome. I love
Yeah, Hell to Pay was a fun idea.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you want to talk James Bond or do it for the Patreon?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you had another book left.
Well, I was gonna say, do you want to save it for the episode? I did read the new James Bond.
Yeah. Preview it, but we'll get our full take on the Patreon.
Okay, so this is Warren Ellis. No, Garth Ennis's.
I do
James
that all the
Bond.
time.
They're similar.
Yeah.
And it is exactly how I thought Garth Ennis would write James Bond. I won't get into it because it requires its own explanation, and I have thoughts and feelings about it. But this is definitely a more brutal James Bond than we've really seen in comics. He doesn't fuck about with a watch that shoots lasers. He blows up his car to kill 5 people. Like,
okay.
That's the Bond we're dealing with here. There is a cool story, Soviet throwback, where this super weapon that is like a water bomb that instantly freezes everything in a room and then melts super fast, gets stolen. So you can detonate it in a room and then leave no evidence.
Oh,
Like right away, right? That's the bit. That gets stolen from MI6, and of course, Bond is the only one who can take the case and figure out who stole it, who's trying to make more, and save the day.
From the previews thing of it, is there? There's also hints of another 00 agent introduced in this book.
Yes, Bond actually he goes to this retired 00 agent who has information about it because he's the one who recovered it from the Soviets in the first place.
I almost thought you were going to say he has to go to a retired 00 agent nursing home, like just a nursing home,
a bunch of 00s.
full of 00s, just like, I'll take it on. It's like, oh no.
No, they actually make a point that like this guy is like one of the few 00s who actually made it to retirement.
Wow.
Because they all die. But again, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about the way Garth Ennis wrote this character, both good and bad, and it requires more of a dissection. So,
that's First Issue Club. Beb, listen to the outro for the details on how you can support us at patreon.com/firstissueclub and all of our social medias and that good stuff. So, appreciate you listening. Leave us a review if you enjoyed the episode to help more people find our fun little show about comic books. Bye. First Issue Club is edited and produced by Mike DeStacy, Greg Lichtag, and Andy Vargas. Follow us on social media at First Issue Club and check out our Patreon for videos, audio, and more at patreon.com/firstissueclub.